Okay. You're able to hear well, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All
Yes,
right.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry for the delay. There's some network glitch at this side. It took some time to log into the page. Okay. So we'll continue from what we were talking about, right, in the last class. So we did discuss the vowel diagram, if I'm not wrong. Let me just scroll this one. Uh, I think this is where we discussed the vocal tract, the oral nasal cavity, and vowels. And I think I showed you this chart as well, right? This was basically to um, help you understand what the pure vowels are, right? Pure vowels, or sometimes you would also see the word monophthong, right? So monophthong and pure vowels, they're one and the same, right? There's no difference. And then I hope you have your charts prepared, right? So I'm just letting you know again that you need to have a chart like this prepared for both vowels and consonants, right? At least with one word so that you have a sort of template to work with, right? Now, you can ask where is this going to help me? This will certainly help you to understand and learn these things, but also for the exam, right? Most of us are anyway only concerned about how we score in exams. So this one is going to be helpful for you in the sense that you're going to get questions on sounds identification, both for vowels and for the consonants, right? So if you have a chart like this prepared with at least a word or two representing or that is representative of each of the sounds, right? It would be easy for you to compare and contrast in the exam with the words that appear in the questions there, right? So whatever is the word that appears for the exam in the question given there, you can compare it with the list that you've already prepared to check, whether a given sound is a long vowel, short vowel, or the identification of the vowel itself, consonant itself, right? The chart is going to help you in that way. Like it would help you both learn as well as to score well, if that is any incentive for you to do this exercise, right? So this is that, right? I'll just quickly to refresh what we were talking about. We'll just go through this chart. So what's the first sound you see here? So beat,
E.
right? It's a
E.
E sound. So this beat, and then the word you have in the third column is what? It's bit, right? And this one has what? It has a long or short vowel in bit.
Short.
Short
Short
vowel.
one, right? So these two are what their counterparts. So one long and one short. This one's a long and this one is the short one, right? I'll just let you know one more things. For your exams, usually we don't ask any notations. No phonetic symbols are asked. But in case, right, only for these three sets that I'm going to write down in your chat, please have a look at that. So for short E, you will see a simple E sound, right? The small letter I. And for long, you will see two I's. You would have already figured that out in the exam. So if you have one I, then it is a short E sound. If it is two I, then it means we are referring to a long E sound. Similarly, if it is just U, then it refers to the U sound. And if you have say U, then it is what? What is it?
O
Long
sound.
O.
It's a long oo sound, right? Oo and oo, right? And again for O, right? We don't have the O in English. We have O. So if you have just the O letter, the letter O in English, then it is a short O sound in English. And again, if you have two O's,
Long
two
O.
O letter sounds, it's a long O. Okay, as in the word daughter, or as the word on the screen, what is it? The long one is hot or fought? Which one is the long one?
Fort.
Pot.
Fought,
Pot.
right? Fought, right. So this is all that you have to keep in mind. And if not, then you may also see something like, usually we maintain this, but in case, they've taken something from the old set or something, then you will have some notations like this, right? So for long E, you have a small I and then a colon, right? And for the long U, again, the same thing. Okay, please look at your chat, right? So either of this notation would be possible, like in the exam. Mostly we keep it to the first one, the double sound thing, right? U for long O for long O, I for long E. But in case you see this one where, the letter is followed by a colon, again, like what is the international notation, right? That's how they use it. It also means long, the long sound. Okay, just keep that in mind, that's all. Okay, so let's look at these words. You have the first counterpart, E and E. So you have beat and bit, right? Then you have the second one. It's a little mixed up here, but that's all right. It doesn't matter. So for U, the short counterpart is U. And what are the words in this given table? Long U would be boot, right? Boot. And short O is foot, right? A lot of us have, particularly Indian English speakers, you say foot, right? That's not right. It's foot. Okay, there's another word we use wrongly. Can you identify that for me? It's a very common word. It's also a part of the body, right?
Tooth.
Tooth, right? So again, it's not tooth, it's tooth, right? Tooth, not tooth. Okay. So that's the long U and the short U, boot and foot. Then you have next one, which is this one, right? Cap. The vowel sound is a, right? This is again very unique to English. A few more languages may have it, but in our context, with the languages that we are familiar with, this is a unique sound in English. A, right? Cap. And then you have the next sound, which is O, the short O, which is hot, right?
Ma'am, are
Then,
those Greek symbols? Those are AE.
no. These are not Greek symbols. These have been derived by the IPA. There could be some which might look like that, but then Greek alphabets or letters are very different. I am sure you have seen them. If you're a science student, you probably have already been introduced to many of them, right? Most of the notations in science
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
are
yes.
represented using Greek letters. Yeah, these are not that. These are Roman. If you look at them closely, most of them are Roman, and then you also have some other mixes in this. But these are all self-derived in the sense the association has come about with it, right? Okay. So this is bit, right? The sound is E, and then you have bit representing that sound. Then you have This is what I told you, that this can be taken as a long counterpart for this sound. Right? As in the word the, right? Or father, right? The last sound as in the word father is this one, right? It's a very, very, almost negligible sort of a vowel sound, yet it is very prominent in the English language, right? So these two maybe some textbooks might call them as, the long and short counterparts. To me, too, it sounds like they are long and short counterparts. Like when you say the and when you say verse, I feel like, the in verse you have an elongated or a more prolonged period of time of the right? Some people may not agree. Of course, a lot of how something sounds to me is perceptional, right? How like very similar to how the color property works, right? Everyone may not identify blue as blue. Some people might say it as green, right? So it's a spectrum, and whenever there's a spectrum, this kind of confusions are possible. Same is applicable here, but I think for our case, we can take it as long and short, right? Because we have our native tongue influence, so it's all right. So this is verse, that is the long and then the short as in the, right? And this is the long sound, right? So hot, this is short, and this is long, right? Hot and fought, right? You don't say fought, you say fought. Now this one is a, right? So bet, a, b, t, right? So bet. This one is a, cup, k, p, right? Cup and the, right? So the, and a. Both are centralized vowels. So a bit of a variation. You can say these sounds to yourself or say the words which carry themselves and figure out the difference. I think this one we discussed in the last class. We demonstrated how these are different. Foot we looked at, it's a short oo sound. And then the last one is ah, which is a back vowel again. Bark. Okay, bug. I'll tell you something more about, particularly this sound r, as you see here in the word bark, right? Something about this a little later after we have finished talking about consonants. So is this clear? If you have any confusions, first the thing that you have to do is you have to create a table like this for yourself. And if there are specific problems that you face while you're trying to practice with it, then please write to us. Okay.
Ma'am,
Okay.
in the last graded assignment one, there is a word
Huh.
oblivion.
Oblivion. Yeah.
I think this word has long vowel because at the beginning we
Hmm.
pronounce it like oh oblivion
Hmm.
oblivion, but the answer
Hmm.
got that all are short all are
Yeah,
short.
all are. Yes, yes.
But
You don't say oblivion. It's oblivion. It's a short vowel. Okay. So see, let so again, for this activity would help you. Have a word which has a long or sound, right? Compare it with the word that is given in the exam and see which one is long and short. Even if there's a fraction of second difference, it means the other one is the short one, right? So let's take the example that we had in this one, the previous chart, right? It was fought, right? FOUGHT fought. So say, please mute yourself and say fought and oblivion to yourself a couple of times and tell me whether you understand the long and short variation or not. Right? These are all acoustic, physical attributes. Sound is always a physical attribute. So you understand them or you learn them only when you do some, exercise like this, right? It is difficult to register it
what
otherwise.
what
Hmm.
has long vowel but oblivion is short, I think.
Yeah. Get
Uh,
that thing? Huh.
now I'm
Huh.
understand that. Got it.
Or
Ma'am,
additionally look at a sound like, because we have it on the screen, short, right? SHORT. Does short have a long vowel or mm, short vowel? In
Short
short,
vowel.
you need
Short
to compare. You need to compare with a word, right? And tell me, short,
short has short vowel.
short?
Short has short vowels.
Yeah, yeah, I got it. I'm asking you, are you sure?
Yes, I am sure.
You're sure?
Hmm.
Okay. Anybody else with any other opinions?
ma'am, short sounds similar to fort now.
That's because your short sounds similar to what? Pod.
Fort, which you take example, FOUGHT.
That's what my question was. So short and fought, right? Does short sound like pot? Short pot? No, it's short and fought, right? Fought, short. Short has a long vowel, right? Which is why comparison is important. You need to keep comparing with the words that you have and figure out. There are other rules that we can discuss, but then the problem is that it may not be applicable to all the words in English, right? English is a fuzzy language in the sense it's a mix of everything. It's more like a pigeon, right? Where the language has borrowed itself, borrowed many things from various other languages. So depending on the orthography or the spelling is going to be really, really problematic. It's not a phonetic language. It's not like our languages where every sound represents every symbol represents the sound as it is enunciated. So this confusions can occur. Although 80% or 85% of the words may fit into the rule that we are discussing, some of it may definitely be out of it, right? So for the course too, we are not going to bring in any words that are complicated. The ones which can fit better inside the rules that's reduced is the only one that you'll see in the exam. But this comparison activity is very, very important. Okay, please get some practice on this so that you don't go wrong on the words, right?
No,
So, ma'am,
excuse me,
what is
ma'am.
the answer?
For
What is the answer for the short?
short is a long vowel. It's short, right? You don't say short.
Yeah,
Yeah,
means it is similar to fought and hot.
correct. That's right. It's similar to pot. That's right.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, go ahead.
Ma'am, where can we find this recording?
You can find this recording in the, is the YouTube playlist not updated in the calendar yet?
No, ma'am.
No? Is that the same for everyone? Can someone else confirm?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I didn't find it.
These videos are not.
Yes, ma'am. Not
You're
a
able to find it, right? Yes means you're able to find it. Am I right? Yeah?
So if somebody found it,
Yes,
please send the
Okay.
link in chat box. I
I
didn't
can see
find
the
it.
Yeah.
playlist link on the calendar.
Yeah. They will send you the playlist, but you should also figure out why you're not able to see it, right? So do that also. But yes, someone can share the link. I don't mind doing any of those. Okay.
Thank you.
So monophthongs, right? I told you that sometimes you'll also see the word monophthong. So this is a clear classification of the short vowels in English and the long vowels in English, right? So how many short vowel? Just give me a moment. I need to reduce the, yeah, it's better.
Ma'am, can you share your PPT with us, these notes? Because this will help
This
us.
is already there in the, supplementary tab. You can access it from there. I think the PDF is already uploaded. You can look at it. This is not mine. This is something that I have taken up from eltconcourse.com. It is easily available online, but this slides are also uploaded as PDF. You can access it from the supplementary tab, right? So look at this one. You can ignore the notations. We'll just focus on the words that we were looking at, right? So short and long. How many short?
7.
7, right? And 5 long. So 5 long vowels and 7 short vowels. You don't have to know the number, absolutely unimportant, but know how they are enunciated, right? So short and long vowels, 7 and 5, 12 together are your pure vowels, okay, or monophthongs as they are called. Now we have another category, right? We call it what? The diphthongs. So what is the diphthongs like? What do you understand about diphthongs? Are they vowel sounds?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
They
right? So
they
yeah,
combine
go ahead.
vowels.
Yeah, so these look like a combination of two different pure vowels. It looks like, look at, you need to pay attention to the word looks like. So it is not exactly that, right? When I say diphthongs, I'm not trying to say that, it's actually formed by the combination of two pure vowels. It looks like that. It seems so. It sounds like that, right? But they have their own acoustic properties. When they appear in a word, particularly, when you learn about syllabification, you'll understand that, they work as a separate unit. Once they are a diphthong or once they manifest as a diphthong in the word, then they work as an independent unit. They're not two different vowel sounds, right? So whenever you find a diphthong in a word, remember that diphthong has its, it's unique in itself. It's independent. It's not a combination of two vowel sounds. Okay, although it sounds so, diphthong has its own distinct quality. So they are a single unit, right? So how many diphthongs? Again, 8, right? 8 of
8.
them. Yeah, so you don't need to bother with the centering closing. This is a little detailed, and this is for people who want to study further, dig further into the sound system. But we are only bothered with this chart, right? Right. So 8 of them. And what are they? The first one is ear, right? As in the word hear, right? If you're going to say the word hear slowly to yourself, you can hear here, right? It's not here, it's here. A lot of people I've heard them say, how do you say here?
Here.
Here.
Here or here. It's not here, it's here.
Here.
Right? Here. Come here. Right? That's how you need to say. Okay. Ua. Next is ua. And the example given is, how do you otherwise say this word?
For
You say por or somebody says por, right? But it's poor. Okay? Poor.
Ma'am,
So
poor.
because you have the diphthong ua here. U and ua.
Ma'am, like POOR, it is the same only.
Yeah, it is the same. Poor. Okay?
Ma'am,
Poor.
Poor. I think it's
It's not poor.
P-O.
It's certainly not poor. That is the problem with this is that I think I discussed this already because we have just one representative sound in our languages for the O sound, which is O. So we use that for this is an influence. I can't say it's wrong. It happens. It's not really, a mistake. But then if you're someone who's looking to, improve proficiency in terms of speaking, then it's good to keep it as close to the standard variety, right? So poor. This is how you say it, right? Okay. Next is
Sir, wouldn't that be four?
sorry.
Four.
You need to spell it for me.
And no, the P-O-U-R.
Ah.
Will that be poor or four? Four.
It's you're asking for P-O-O-R, is it?
No, P-O-U-R.
Yeah. What's the question?
When he is asking,
Go ahead.
Is it poor or poor?
It's poor. It's a diphthong,
P-
right? So if you're using or, then it has become a pure vowel monophthong. This one is a diphthong. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Now, next one is air, right? Air as in share, right? It's not shared, it's share. It's share. Then day, day or table, right? Not table, day. That's how we say it. Again, if you're looking to improve your pronunciation, then it's day and table, right? In fact, table would be table. It will have an aspiration, but I think that we're going to discuss a little later in the course. So,
Madam, I have a question. So that
Yeah.
word P-O-U-R. See, normally we'll maybe before and all we call as poor. So now we understood as a poor. So what my question is, wherever OU combination of OU, wherever it is coming, so we need to use UR sound, right?
But then let me give you a very contrasting example now. Look at the last word here.
So
Last
it's
word. South.
South.
Okay. You
Yeah.
see OU there?
Yes.
But is it UA? It's a very distinct diphthong. It's OU.
Yes. South.
Right.
Yes.
So in English, you have this pitfalls. This is what I was saying, that the orthography is really, really fuzzy. We don't know how, this has happened. This is because of, the conclusion is it could be because, most of these words are borrowed words to some extent. So this kind of discrepancy or this mismatch is there. Hence, I cannot, tell you that, okay, wherever you say, oh, you just go ahead and mark it as O. It won't work like that. Sometimes when you have just the O letter, it is, it can sound like a very different thing. I'll come to that. That is a special diphthong in English. Okay. But this thing you cannot do, because I have OU sound here. Let me go ahead and mark it as U. That doesn't work for English, unfortunately. Right. So don't go for it. Look at the word for its own quality and then judge. Right. In the exam, you'll have some kind of clue already in there. So the trick is that, you need to look at the question, read the question carefully. Most of the times the options given or within the question itself, you will have enough clues given to understand, what the question is or what the answer is. Right. But beyond that, right, if you leave aside the whole exam thing, then even if it is for the case of understanding, in English, the best way to familiarize yourself is to listen to English more, right? The more you listen to things in English, you're going to be acquainted with it better, right? The more you listen, you'll also feel, that even the English teachers themselves have accent, and it's okay, absolutely, to have that, right? Because you're not going to reproduce English in a context where everybody is going to use the Queen's accent or anything, right? So you will hear a lot of people saying sure and poor and all that, right?
Yes.
They make the last row as a trill. We don't have to do that. That's absolutely unnecessary. All you need to ensure is that you are when you speak, it's clear, right? People understand that you're saying for and not, something else. That's the only criteria here. You don't have to sound like anybody. That's not the point here. We're not teaching these, articulations, or we're not introducing you to the sound system so that you sound like some British person or American person, right? That's not the goal. It's to introduce you to the sound system of English. That's all, right?
Okay.
Okay. So next one is share, right? As in air. Then you have a as in day. Then you have I, right? These are all common. We do have all these sounds in our languages. I, surprise, right? Then oi, as in boy, right? Then o, right? O, as in boat. So how do you usually say BOAT in our language? It's boat, right? Boat. But how would the standard variety sound like boat? Okay, now I'll give you counter examples to all of this, why you cannot use English spellings, why you cannot depend on them, right? You had a question in your graded assignment. I hope the time has, the assignment is already past the deadline. So let's say the word was HOME, right? Remember this word? I don't remember the
Yes, ma'am.
question exactly. I think it was, the following word has one long vowel, no long vowel, something like that, right? That was the question. So home, the O letter that you say in the word home is actually a diphthong. It's home, right? So if it's a diphthong, then you don't call it a long vowel. It also acts very much like your short vowel, right? So it has only short vowels. That was the answer was basically short vowel, only short vowel, because the O sound you hear, or the O sound you have seen, the O letter, sorry, not sound, the O letter that you saw in the word home was representative of this diphthong. O, right? Now, if I'm going to say that, okay, whenever OA comes, maybe it is O, then that rule fails when it comes to a word like home, right? So, which is why we do not deduce any rules based on spellings, although as an, if you're interested and if you have got some free time and you really want to figure out, you may look at few words and see if you can come up with some pattern. Okay. But this is a
So,
problem.
ma'am,
Huh.
all the diphthongs come under short vowels sound.
Yes. All of these are short vowels. Okay. Please do not consider diphthongs as long vowels. They do not have the long vowel property. The duration is as much as a short vowel. So you don't see anything like mm, uh, a lengthy duration as you articulate the diphthongs. It may sound long because now we are, going slow so that we can understand these sounds, but otherwise no. So here, her, share, day, prize, boy, boat, south. Okay, the last one is ow, which is south, as seen in the word south. All of these are short vowels, not long vowels. Okay. So diphthongs are short vowels. Do not count them as long. They appear in the exams, right? Okay. All right. So 8 set of diphthongs. Any questions?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, go ahead.
Ma'am, the link that has uploaded in playlist, but it's of old version. The previous lecture that had happened in 1 week ago, that video is not updated in that link.
Which sorry,
Ma'am, that
which one are you
playlist is June term, not the September term videos.
Yes, ma'am.
No, sorry, I did not get your question.
And the lecture that is held on previous week, lecture of part 1, that I can't attend due to some reason, and I want to watch the lecture, then where can I watch it? The link
The
that
one
is
that
up.
happened last week, is that so?
Yes, ma'am.
So for that you have this playlist now. Somebody has shared that in the group, I guess. No, the
No,
playlist is not here yet. But okay, this person, he keeps sharing this WhatsApp thing here. I don't know who this is. Are you right? Someone, if you can share the playlist, please do that in the group. I'll also see if I have any
Miss, the
access to it.
playlist is not updated one. The playlist is of July term and it's
Uh-huh.
not updated of the September term.
Oh,
And we
oh,
want
oh.
of the September
Okay.
term.
Okay, got it, got it. So you're saying that the thing is the link is not updated yet. That is okay. Uh, okay, the network is quite slow. I cannot. Okay, let me see. Huh,
Yeah,
yeah,
what
yeah. That's
whatever
right.
shared,
That's right.
whatever shared that link also, one person shared that also it's old only, not a new one. This September one.
Okay, I'll talk about this. I say even I don't see a playlist. Okay, fine. I'll ask them. I'll ask them why it is not updated. Okay. And they'll do it. I'll make sure that they upload by at least
Yes, ma'am.
Monday.
Send the list of playlist.
Huh? Sorry. Okay. All right. So that would be
Thank you, ma'am.
settled, from our side. Don't worry about that. I'll talk to them. But take a look at these things, and if you still have got doubts, you of course you can write to us or talk to us whenever you have time. I'm moving on to the consonants part, right? So I think we can look at this and then maybe voiced and voiceless and be done for today, right? There's still some time. So if we have at least say 5 minutes or so left, we'll start with the exercise, if not like finish. But look at this. This is what? This is the consonant chart, right? Consonant, and this only has the consonant sounds that you can identify in English language, right? So how many consonants? You had 12 monophthongs, you had 8 diphthongs. Hmm? And how many consonant sounds?
24.
24, right? 24. So put together 44 sounds. So these are your 24 sounds. So I don't know, I'm not counted if they're 24. Let's, just in the, let's take it to our confidence and, our trust that it's 24. But this is how you can represent the distinctness of all the English consonant sounds, right? So I think when we were looking at the articulators, right, that vowel, this one, not vowel, the vocal tract, right? We did discuss about the articulators, right? So one thing is based on places of articulation, right? Like you see in the chart. So places of articulation basically means the articulators, wherever the as the air flows out of your oral cavity or the nasal cavity, whichever point in your oral or nasal cavity the air gets obstructed, that is, the air gets stopped, okay, that becomes your articulators, right? Or these articulators in turn obstruct the air in order to help you produce the sounds. Okay. God, super slow. Okay. So you have bilabials. We discussed as part of the places of articulation. Okay. We discussed what bilabial sounds are. Like, what are bilabial sounds?
From
It's
lips.
from
It is
lips.
Yeah.
both the
So,
lips, upper and lower.
correct. So there's an involvement of your lips, right? Both your lips, hence bilabial sounds. Labiodental would be what?
Lips
Lips and teeth.
and teeth.
Right, lips and teeth. So your upper teeth would touch the behind, so the back side of your lower lip, right? So somebody told me that the sound fur doesn't sound like this one. This is not a labiodental in my language, but it sounds more like bilabial. True. In our languages, the fur that you have as in full or fool, right? Just to give you an example, if you traverse down towards the south, you would not even find something like that, right? It's not used as all per and you're done. You don't have this articulation of the per sound of fool or pal or anything, right? Some of the languages, probably the one which has some influence from the Sanskrit, may have, but you will see that not many words in the language itself would begin with the first sound, right? Most of the words, even if you have the sound, those are usually words that are borrowed from Sanskrit. But that fur that you use in Indian languages is not the fur. It's not the labiodental fur, you're right. It's a bilabial one, pal or pool, right? But English, this is a distinct sound. It's a fur. So it's produced when the teeth. The upper teeth touches the back side of your lower lip. So f or v, right? So f and v are both labiodentals in that sense, right? It's a little distinct from our sounds in the sense we don't have labiodentals as such. Okay. Then the dental sound, the articulators are your teeth, right? So th and the, th and the, right? So your tongue touches your upper teeth, the back side of your upper teeth, slightly to make these sounds, right? So slight friction, and you have the sounds th and the, right? I use the word friction, right? So this should also tell you that whenever there's an involvement of friction, when you articulate these sounds, when you say these sounds, when you produce, when your vocal tract tries to, push out air in the production of these sounds, what happens? There's an obstruction, and as the air is released through the mouth, there's also friction, right? So you call them fricatives. This is where the name fricative comes from. The air is released with a friction, right? The, then you have f and v, right? All of it has a slight friction as the air moves out of the mouth, right? There are many messages right in here. I hope none of it is for me. So I'm not taking a look at it right now. If there's anything that then I'll address at the end of the class, right? So this is clear to you? F, v, th, the, s, z, sh, z, h, right? All of them, as you produce these sounds, right? Or the vocal tract releases air in order to make these speech sounds. There's a friction as the air gets released, right? So these are called fricatives. Okay, you can say the sounds to yourself, and you can understand what we mean by obstruction, friction as the air gets released, right? Any doubt on that? Before we go further ahead, anything?
No, ma'am.
No, right? So this is pretty clear. Like I told you, you'll have to physically use these sounds and understand what we mean by it. So they're called fricatives because of the way the manner in which the air flows out of your air stream, right, of your vocal tract, right? It goes out, or it flows out. It's exhaled through a friction, right? Which is why fricative sound. Okay. So labiodental, dental, then alveolars include t, d, s, z, n, l, and r. All of them are alveolar sounds. Alveolar is what? When the air is obstructed where? At the alveolar ridge, right? Alveolar ridge is the, bony part, right? Bony, or I don't know, some people would also say the fleshy part, right behind your teeth, right? The upper part of your teeth. Just before the roof of the tongue begins, that hard part, that's called the alveolar ridge. So any sounds that are produced through an obstruction of the airflow there, they're called what? They're called alveolar sounds. So t, d, s, z, n, l, r, all of them are alveolar sounds. Place of articulation is the alveolar ridge, but within that, again, there's a difference in the way the air flows out of the stream, right? It gets obstructed at the alveolar ridge, but after the obstruction, the way it moves out, okay, depending on how it moves out of the oral cavity, gives you the exact manner of articulation of these sounds. So for t and d, we call them stops. Why do we call them stops? It's alveolar stops. Why are they called alveolar stops?
Because they have only one sound like
No, not because of that. So about stops, what happens? So as you're, when you're trying to say these sounds, produce these speech sounds, the air for a short while is trapped in your oral cavity, right? T, d, or p, b. It's more clear in sounds like p and b. For a very short, very small fraction of second, the air is trapped in your oral cavity, and then it is released. Okay, there's a sudden release of the air from your cavity, right? So which is why it almost feels like there has been a it almost resembles an explosion process. So there's a pressure buildup and then it's suddenly released. The air is very suddenly released after holding it for a fraction of seconds, right? So sometimes this is how you have stops. So sometimes because of the way it is, articulated, stops are also referred to as plosives. Okay, they're called plosives because of the way, the manner in which the air is released of your oral cavity. That is it is very, very, very momentarily held and then the air is suddenly released. Held momentarily and suddenly released, right? Which is why stops are plosives.
Madam, this one, actually, how the tongue, what is the position, madam? Both are because of the difficult, because of the T and D, the consonants. So, which one
It's
is,
not
which
T
one?
and D, say T and D because they're sounds, right? So the ones you're giving me are letters. Okay.
Okay. So, both are in same position. So,
Correct.
okay.
In same positions, no. So there is a distinction. It's called the voiced and voiceless distinction. I'll come to that in a while. But at this point, both of them are alveolar sounds and they're also alveolar stops. Okay. So there are two parameters you're using. One is the place of articulation and the other one is the manner of articulation to categorize the sound right now. You can add other properties too, but we are going to keep it restricted in this chart to just the place and manner of articulation. You can add additional qualities to it as you figure in. So I would say if somebody asks me what is stir, I'm going to say that it's a voiceless alveolar stop. Okay, that would be a more, descriptive understanding of what the ter sound is and what its physical properties are. But because I did not discuss the voiced and voiceless thing with you, I just, I'm going to go by the thing that you see in the chat. Okay. So ter and dar are also distinct. So ter is voiceless and dar is voiced. Per and bar also distinct. Per is voiceless, bar is voiced. Ka, ga are again distinct. Ka is voiceless and ga is voiced. Right. So per is what? It's a voiceless bilabial stop and ba is a voiced bilabial stop. That's how you distinguish. But don't have to go into that kind of detail. Nobody is going to ask you, please give me the, distinction of the sound. But you should know which one is voiced and voiceless. Okay, that was the last thing. So I thought I'll just take it then. Putting everything together is going to confuse, which is why it's not there. Okay.
Okay, madam.
Right. So then you have alveolar. After alveolar, you understand stop, right? So I talked about stop and I talked about fricative also. We'll discuss affricative in a while. The next category for places of articulation is palatal, right? Palatal, I told you, palate is basically the roof of your tongue, right? The hard part that you see above the tongue, which is also sometimes called the roof of the tongue. This is called the palate. So any sound that's produced with an obstruction of the air at that point is going to be palatal sounds. And what are the palatal sounds in English? You have sh, this one is sh, then j. J and sh are different. Sh as in the word ship, and j, this would appear in words like measure, pleasure, okay, leisure, right? So it's not leisure or measure, okay, or pleasure. It is leisure, measure, right? So these are two distinct sounds, sh and j. The next palatal sounds would be ch and j, right? This combination also, ch and j. And the last is the y sound. This one is y, as appears in, your, you. So the first sound that you hear there in these words is the sound y, right? So sh, j, ch, j, and y, these are all palatal sounds. Okay. Velar, of course, the obstruction is at the velum, right back of your, further behind your hard palate, you have velum. And the sounds are k, g, and ng. Okay, ng. Last one is glottal, which is her sound. Her. The English her is not glottal, but then we, for the convenience, we're going to use it as a glottal sound, right? There's also something called the epiglottal sounds. Because we don't have that in the English language, again, you won't find it in the chart. But I think her as glottal is okay for us, right? So these are your consonant sounds, right? P, b, m, v, f, v, th, d, t, d, s, z, n, so on and so forth. So these are all your consonant sounds in English. We look at affricative, okay? Affricative. Now, what is this affricative? What do we mean by affricative sounds? Any idea? Fricative was when there was a friction involved. What do you think would be affricative?
When there's some sound to
When there's a sound too, sorry?
like where uh, some sound and fricative things goes together.
Okay. Yeah. So affricative, no, this is a very, it's a very interesting sort of, sound. So the sound, these sounds, the ones which are affricatives. So from the chart, which are the affricatives? Ch and ja, right? In English, ch and ja are your affricate sounds. So the property is a little, I won't say complicated, but it has mix of two properties. So these sounds, they begin as stops, right? When you start articulating them, they begin as stop in the sense that, they hold the hair for some time. But when it is released out of your mouth, it is released with a friction, right? Usually in the case of plosives, there's a free flow. Right? There is no friction. When you say pa or ba or ma or va, the air is flowing out freely. It gets obstructed only at the articulator, and then otherwise, it's released without any friction. But in the case of affricative like ch and ja, again, it starts off as a stop or a plosive sound, but before it's released of your, mouth, of your oral cavity, it gets released as a fricative sound. So ch begins like a stop, it takes in some air and it's trying to hold it in the mouth. But when it is released, it's released with a friction. Okay. As opposite to say something like fa and va. In fa and va, it is very clear. There's a clear friction, obstruction at the lips and the teeth, and then there's a release with a proper friction, right? In the case of cha and ja, though, it begins like a stop, very much like a fa and va. That is, it accumulates some air so that it can hold. Okay, stops for a while but then releases it immediately with the friction, right? These are, very subtle processes, very difficult to explain how it happens. You will have to take these sounds to yourself and then understand, what is being said. So the air is held and then released with the friction, right? That's how affricates work. So only cha and ja sounds in English. I do not know if there is another language which is like more affricative sound, but for our case and English, I think cha and ja, they are the affricative sound that you will see. Okay, you understood, right? This is a question please ask me. But I would tell you again, given the kind of things we are discussing, these are all physical properties which you'll have to experience for yourself, right? There's always a limitation to how much these things can be explained using words, right? Okay. Nasal is easy, right? Ma, na, nga. So if the air instead of the mouth is released to the nose, right? That is called the nasal cavity. Then you have the nasal sound. But what happens in the nasal sound? Can somebody tell me? How do you have nasal sound? What's the internal mechanism?
Ma'am, uvula blocks the air.
Not uvula.
It blocks the air from the mouth and it goes from the nasal cavity.
Uvula, more than uvula does have a role to play, but more than uvula, it's the velum. The velum is what gets, raised when you have the production of the nasal sound, right? So if it is lowered, then the air is released through the nasal cavity. If it is raised, then the air is released through the oral cavity. So that's how you have nasal sounds, right? So there's a, and when we say blocked, it's not like a, long time block, right? It's all of these are differences based on a fraction of second, right? That's all. Okay. So these are your nasal approximants. Approximants are when, there is enough movement of the tongue in your oral cavity. So when you say, if the air can flow easily around your mouth, okay, inside, not out of the mouth, if there's enough space for the air to flow around your tongue region and the whole of the oral cavity, then you have the approximant sounds. So v, l, r, y. Whenever you say these sounds, you see that the oral cavity is free mostly, right? for the air to flow around. This is called the approximant, which is why you will see some of the sounds in this category will have vowel-like quality. This is the reason. When vowels are produced, the airflow is free or is it restricted and obstructed in the production of vowel sounds? What is it? Is it obstructed or is it free for vowel sounds?
Free.
Free.
It's free, right? There's a free flow of air when you're articulating vowel sounds. Ah, e, oo, no restriction anywhere. The air flows easily. This property is mimicked, in the approximant sounds. When you articulate these sounds like v, l, r, y, right? Comparatively to the other sounds, right? As we have just discussed, the airflow is too free. Okay. Hence, sometimes, when some of these sounds are articulated, it feels like, they almost have a vowel-like quality. Which you remember semi-vowel, right? From the lecture. This is the
Yes,
reason
ma'am.
why this is the reason why v and y are called semivowels. Okay, it's because of this free flow of air, right? It mimics the vowel-like quality that we call them semivowels. But still, there are very limited restrictions and obstructions in the cavity here and there, so you cannot call them entirely a vowel also, right? So that's why we say that they're consonants, but they are like semi-vowels because there's comparatively a free flow of air while you articulate these sounds. Okay. All right. One more thing, I just it would be interesting for you to know that the stop sounds. They have several names. I told you another one which is plosives. They're also called as obstruents. Okay, all of these other categories: stop, fricative, affricative, nasal. Not nasal, but stop, fricative, affricative. All of them together are sometimes also referred to as obstruents because the obstruction of the airflow is too high when you produce all of these sounds, as opposed to say approximates, right? And nasal. Nasal also, it has some sort of obstruction, a different kind of obstruction in the nasal cavity, but the other one in the mouth, right? So all of these stop, fricative, affricative, nasal, they can also be referred to as obstruents because they block the air, to a great extent while it flows out of your mouth. Whereas in approximant, this is not as much that, and which is why you will have all these semi-vowel categories inside this. Okay, this is just for your additional information. You don't have to remember or know this for the exam. Just to make the part that I'm talking about clear, I mentioned obstruents. Okay, yeah. Any question? Someone was talking about something.
Now I was saying that can you write the spelling of this in chat?
Of obstruent. Okay, yeah, I can do that. So obstruent comes from the word obstruction, right? Obstruent. This is not for your class, right? For your syllabus. I've just mentioned it so that it's easier for you to understand the distinction between what approximant sounds and obstruents are. Okay. I hope you've understood that. Okay, now this is a chart similar to the one that we saw before for vowel sounds, right? For vowels, we had a chart. And similarly for the consonant sounds, you can prepare a chart like this, right? And have it handy so that you can compare. Consonants are not very problematic because most of the sounds we share with English, except for, I think, the sounds like j, right? Where is that? Yeah, this one. See, this one, leisure, right? Pleasure. This one is not there in any of our languages. And the r in English sounds very different from the r that we have in our language, right? It's very mild in English as compared to the ones that we have in our languages, right? So r. Then the v sound is a labiodental fur, also fur. Where's fur?
Hello.
Yes. Go ahead.
Please share the class PDFs in chat box.
Sorry?
मैम क्लास पीडीएफ को चैट बॉक्स में शेयर कर दीजिए.
They're already uploaded. You people need to look at your dashboard. It's in the supplementary tab section, right? So you can access all the PDF files from there. Or
No,
I think they're most.
ma'am, these PDFs are not there. We only have class PDFs and the transcript PDF. Transcript.
Okay, I'll check with these people if they have not enabled, but usually, it's all uploaded in the beginning. Is there anyone else who's been able to access it? You can confirm with others in case you were able to find
Miss,
it.
many of the people, students, they don't have the access to this PDFs.
Okay, fine. I'll talk to the team and figure out what's going on. But meanwhile, you try and see if you're able to access. Okay. So yeah, fur is different, right? Fur is articulated differently from our language. J is different. R is a little different, and that's all. Otherwise, most of it is the same. Th and the is a little different, as in uh, there's this small, very small uh, gap sort of a thing in between the two, two sets of teeth that you have. Though the tongue just slightly touches the gap of the, set of teeth while you say the or the in English, right? But that's
Ma'am,
okay. That's a very slight difference. That's all right.
there
But
is
huh,
and there is confusion between the two. One is this z in leisure in the
huh,
leisure word,
huh.
and second in this third word in the second column, jumper.
Jumper. This is a j sound. It's not j, right? J is different from j. How is it different? We'll look at the chart again. See. So j is a fricative sound, whereas j is an affricative sound. They're both palatal for sure, but j is what it's an affricative, and j is a j is an affricative and j is fricative sound, right? This j is similar to the j we have in our languages, like what? Give me a word. Anything from your language?
Jharkhand.
No, that is ch. Okay, that is ch.
So,
Puzzle.
Say the word like jap, right? Jap. Jap as in chant, right? As in jap mala. So this is the j sound. That is the j sound we have in our inventory. We don't have j. This is very unique to English. That j is unique to English. We don't have that in at least the languages spoken in our subcontinent. We have only j. Okay.
Puzzle.
No. That is z. That's not j. Z sound. Puzzle. Okay.
Ma'am, in puzzle it is what? The
It
or
is this
the.
sound. The voiced counterpart of the s sound. Okay, s is voiceless and z is voiced. So s, z, and j. J is different. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Right. All right. I think this should be more than enough. So have a chart prepared for this. Okay, maybe the last thing, voiced and unvoiced. We've already looked at it. So you can call it unvoiced, or I think more commonly we refer to it as voiceless sounds, right? So for every category, you're going to have one set of one sound which would be voiced and the other that would be voiceless. So for the bilabial sounds, you have p and b. P is voiced. P is voiceless, b is voiced. For ch and ja, what are ch and ja? Both of them are palatal sounds, right? So ch is voiceless and ja is voiced. What do we mean by voicing? Voicing means your vocal cord vibrates a bit, right? In the articulation of these sounds. The place of articulation is same. Sometimes the manner of articulation is also very similar, but the difference is that the voice sound is going to have an additional vibration. You feel an additional vibration in the vocal cord as you articulate these sounds. So ch, j, you can experience it. You can just hold your hand, press it a little bit on your, vocal cord in the throat, right? Press it towards your throat a little bit, and you can see as you say ch, there's no vibration. You say j, and you can feel a vibration, right? So that's the difference. Among the labiodental, again, you have voiceless, voiced. Then again, palatal sounds s and z. You have s is the voiceless sound and z is the voice sound. Velar sound K and G. Again, K is voiceless, G is voiced. Alveolar T and D. You have T, which is voiceless, and D, which is voiced. Then again, this one, T and D. T is the voiceless sound, and then D is the voice sound, right? Last one again, palatal Sh and J. Sh, as in ship, is the voiceless sound, and lesion or leisure or pleasure, J is the voiced sound. Okay?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, what about the Hindi word zarurat and leisure?
Zarurat is this sound, this sound. Z. I mean, the closest sound to that in English would be this one, Z.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. That's all. I think we can stop for today, and next week we'll only take up the exercises, right? So we'll go, I usually go a little slow with the sound thing, but afterwards, when we have parts of speech, since there's no much explanation required, we can take up 2 or 3 of them together. Right? So keep practicing this meanwhile, right? Don't just leave it aside. You can use these PDFs. I'll ensure that they're all uploaded on time and you can access it. But revisit it once in a while. Just don't leave it. Otherwise, there are chances that you lose touch and then don't understand at the end of it. Right? And write to us in case you have any questions meanwhile, as you practice.
Pardon,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yes, yes.
The
ahead, go
last second, the last second row, load
Last
and
second group.
row, the both
Okay.
and versus
Hmm.
the second one. What's the
Load.
pronunciation?
The first one is loath, and the second one is loath.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, I actually wanted to ask, all this things are also going to come in the qualifier exam, means
These
audio.
are all part of your, whatever we discussed is a part of your week 1 lecture. No, obviously. Everything that is discussed, that's vowel sounds, consonant sounds, voiced and voiceless sounds, they're all part of your exam. Qualifier, yes. That's right.
Also the audio.
Audio.
Audio clips are also going to come.
I don't think so. I think the audio clips are not a part of the exam format anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. All right then. I'll see you next week again. So we are going to be practicing some exercises for the session next week, and then I think it'll be clearer for you. Meanwhile, please take a look at all of these and write back in case you face any difficulty. Okay. So we'll
Thank
wind
you.
up for
Okay,
today.
thank you, ma'am.
Sure. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
ma'am.
See you again next week.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sure. Sure.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, everyone. See. Yeah, playlist. I remember Abhinav. I'll ask them to see and update it as soon as possible.
Okay.